Hello and welcome everyone to the AGSB Open Tournament League of Legends today during our kind of off-season from BEC after the disappointing semi-finals loss.
Yes, I believe AGSB came in second place. So, you know, they're honing their talents. And hopefully, if we see the winning team here, we'll be able to have a much stronger AGSB team for next year.
Anyway, a fun, friendly 5v5 Open League of Legends AGSB. Now this is Team DUCKO versus Team TBD. I'm not sure whether TBD means to be decided, but that's what they've decided for their team name to be. And so far we've seen some Singed bans, Vladimir bans, Guys bans on DUCKO's side, and Jinx, Kai'Sa and Ornn on TBD's side. Already a Zac pick for the jungler of DUCKO, and Alistar and Wukong, so potentially also a jungle and support pick for TBD, although of course that Wukong, especially after that Wukong rework recently, can go in lots of different spaces.
And I think the Kalista is definitely an interesting pick into the Wukong and the Alistar, because even though she is very frail, with her inbuilt gap closers and also escape with her passive, I'm sure she can give the Wukong and Alistar slightly more difficulty in engaging.
And something we can talk about also is, even though we don't know all these players, or we haven't seen all of them play in a competitive setting, we've seen quite a few of these players in the AGSB BEC team. So we can talk about the fact that, of course, on DUCKO's side they have Vilfire. We know he's a good ADC. We've seen him with such competency on picks such as the Kai'Sa and the Xayah. And now I'm seeing him on a pick that I haven't seen him play before, but of course Kalista has risen in popularity recently. And so I'd be interested to see whether the competency on some of those other ADCs translates onto Kalista for Vilfire, although I'm sure it does. Equally on the other side, we see they have Zhang, who's probably playing in the mid lane, and he's been good at some of those Syndra picks, or I think some Ryze picks as well. Of course, Ryze was banned, and the Jinx and Kai'Sa were banned for Vilfire.
We can definitely see some target banning on both sides, because we know in the BEC we definitely saw Vilfire popping off with the Kai'Sa and the Jinx often carrying the game despite Hong, and so taking those champs away from him, you know, it's going to have a serious impact.
Although I am surprised that he didn't then just pick up the Xayah. He opted for that Kalista pick instead. Interestingly, it would be what is the support that he pairs up with that Kalista. Kalista is such a, not a support reliant champion, but has such synergy with support. Especially if you opt for a tankier engaged support, like perhaps the Taric or the Leona, as they pick up the Taric with that ultimate, can certainly really lead to some big engages.
And now we see Nitro Dude hovering over. Oh no, never mind. He goes for the much safer Nico mid pick, which I suppose still brings some of that root long CC to kind of secure the ganks in the mid lane. And of course, Zac is a very threatening champion, especially when he's ganking mid lane, since he can go from pretty much anywhere. And the Yasuo mid, I'm assuming, on the side of TBD.
To go against that Nico. It's interesting actually to look at this bot lane matchup, because of course I was just talking about the engage from that Taric from the Kalista ult. but then you can see how this response is this long-range Caitlyn who can actually get outside of that engage, and equally an Alistar who can definitely disengage from any such engages. And so I suspect what we'll see actually from both ADCs is a reluctance to actually get into some big fights early, and perhaps they just want to farm up and get some gold, hit some item spikes, particularly for Kalista to get that Hurricane and that Bork and those level 2 boots. And for Caitlyn, also a scaling champion, does want to sit out and wait until she has those crucial items.
And now, as we wait for the spectator delay, you can just check. It's going to be the Zac jungle, the Kalista ADC, the Malphite top, Taric support, and Neeko mid. However, on the side of TBD, it's actually, we're not quite sure whether the Yasuo or the Galio are going mid or top, because of course both those champs can flex either role. And in fact,
although from what we've seen from the BEC, we've seen Zhang on the well, obviously usually playing Syndra, or not usually playing Yasuo, but we've seen him playing in the mid lane, and so I'd presume that Yasuo is going mid. And I believe we saw the Alpha perhaps in 1 or 2 games subbed in for AGSB in the top lane, so I presume then that Galio's going in the top lane and the Wukong in the jungle, Alistar support, and Caitlyn ADC. But of course I'm prepared to be surprised by some of these flex picks.
Although obviously the Yasuo into Malphite matchup isn't particularly beneficial for the Malphite. I mean, isn't particularly beneficial for the Yasuo, so it would be quite foolhardy to pick that matchup if you were on the sides of TBD. So I think that goes again to show that it's probably the Galio in the top lane. And also in these early jungle kind of river brush scuttle crab skirmishes, who do you think is going to come on top? Is it going to be DUCKO or is it going to be TBD? Because I would hasten to say that the Yasuo and the Wukong might be a bit stronger early, but then again, you can get a surprising amount of damage out of the Zac in the early game with very high base damage.
Although what I would say is, particularly after level 6, you have to be scared of that Yasuo and that Wukong. Wukong now has more than one knock-up. He has multiple opportunities to give Yasuo an opportunity to use his last breath. And so you really do have to be scared of that Yasuo-Wukong combo post level 6. And the Zac also post level 6, of course, it's been quite a while now that he hasn't had his ultimate where he picks people up, and now he just kind of bounces around and is really susceptible to just being killed, really. He doesn't have the utility that he used to.
Although, of course, there's no shortage of utility with the Taric on the side of DUCKO. But now, as we've waited for our spectator delay, we can finally get into the match.
I have found out DUCKO is of war. TBD is not to be decided. It's a Terabyte Dynasty.
Of course, we have to take a brief mention of the Dark Star. Ooh. Aaron, what's going on with the stream?
That's just placeholder as it loads up the loading screen. So, yeah, the Dark Star Malphite Prestige Edition, sight to behold.
And we actually don't see any skins on the sides of Terabyte Dynasty.
Well, I would say then perhaps there's a skin advantage, although flipping the cards over, we certainly see a mastery advantage for TBD. Everyone is at least Mastery 5, 2 Mastery 7s in there, and a Mastery 6. On the other side, we see no Mastery, apart from Zach, who's Mastery 4. So already there is an advantage in the experience department for TBD. Wonder if the Darkstar Malphite Prestige Edition skin advantage can help out DUCKO in that regard.
And we do see the over 300,000 points on the Yasuo, so you can tell, you know, it's an interesting player to put that much time into a champ like Yasuo. Might be saying some things in all chat, might be trying to ruffle DUCKO's feathers. We'll have to see. Oh. And we are now loaded in, I believe.
Rearrange these players. Go aboard.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
And we see the ports.
Because the Nico is not loaded in. Take too long.
So apart from the Nico, we can take a quick look at the starting items from both sides. And so far we see pretty much everything is very standard, tried and tested, apart from maybe the Doran's shields on Callista. So maybe the Callista's expecting a lot of poke from the Caitlyn, which of course is possible.
Well, you would be, yeah. And it buys into the idea that these bot lanes will just want to be sitting and waiting, farming up, not particularly wanting to engage, at least until level 6.
Hmm.
I mean, you can also take a look at the starting points both teams have taken. Obviously, it doesn't look like either team intends to invade. 3 players around this buff for TBD. Looks like it's just a leash for Wukong, nothing more.
Yeah, it's quite disappointing actually, the lack of level 1 action we see out of the AGSB players. I don't think a single time in the BEC we actually saw a level 1 play.
Well, actually, there was 1 or 2 games near the end where they didn't do a 5-point start, and they did some level 1 invades, engages, etc. But most of the time, it was just a regular, safe 5-point start.
Of course, you can actually get some fairly cheeky level 1 plays off with the Taric, potentially hiding his stun while in Fog of War or in the brush. It looks like the Nico has reconnected and we should be seeing the unpause very soon. Oh, well, I suppose one last thing we can talk about as the game is unpaused. Oh, wait, the game is unpaused. There we go. Now we're back in.
30 seconds until minions spawn.
And suddenly it looks like perhaps Wukong isn't just there to leash, or isn't just there to be leashed, rather. He's checking out for whether there are any invades. Doesn't spot anything though.
And we see the early ward coming down into the blue side of DUCKO. So we'll see whether that bears any fruit later on.
Yeah, it looks like neither team is willing to do anything too risky at the start of the game right now. Just wants to be as standard as possible. I am particularly disappointed by the lack of skins for both teams.
We'll just have to focus our attention on the top lane.
I can't imagine that a Malphite Galio matchup is that exciting.
Well, I also doubt the bot lane matchup's going to be particularly interesting, at least until they get their engages, such as the Callista are. So, it's just going to be a bit of a slow game at the start. We might have to look to mid or the jungle to see some action. So, both junglers have cleared both of their buffs, and it looks like...
I mean, early on we're actually seeing quite the trades going on in the top lane between Malphite and Galio. I doubt any of them will actually be able to find a kill so early on, but certainly put pressure on each other.
Well, we do see the Zac in the top side jungle. So,
You can imagine both Zac and Wukong will be moving towards those scuttlers looking to get some early scuttle advantages.
Although it looks like the Zac will just concede and go to his wolves. And he will get spotted out.
Wukong and Galio have pretty much secured that top side scuttle. Looks like a lot of pressure is going on to this Malphite.
And we actually see the a small trade actually in the bot lane. Both sides taking little damage.
The Taurik Dazzle more so used as a disengage tool. That small skirmish. One thing of note is actually, although all the CS numbers, both teams pretty closely line up in almost all departments apart from the mid lane, where Zhang's Yasuo certainly has an advantage onto Nitro Dude's Nico with over 10 more CS, and really this Malphite is taking such damage in the top lane. He's not really able to dish back onto Galio. His only saving grace perhaps is with this Galio pushing up so often. Perhaps it is an easy gank for Zac to take at some point to actually get a kill onto the Galio.
And of course does make sense since Malphite's damage is limited and also on the AP side of the spectrum. And of course Galio is designed to be able to absorb as much of that AP damage as possible. And at the same time, Malphite's tankiness is pretty much all based on the physical side, so he's not really getting much assistance for that magic Galio damage. So it really is a beneficial matchup for the Galio in the top lane. As we see, he already is level 6 and might be able to move down and assist with his jungler of the mid lane.
Well, he will probably have to recall first. His mana is hitting low. But look at that, a 20 CS advantage all of a sudden from Galio. Just as before, we saw he had about 2 more CS than Malphite just a minute ago. I also suspect that very soon we'll start to see this Yasuo really start to bully the Nico. You can already see the Glacial Augment just about helping Nitro Dude get away from Yasuo in some of these slight engages in the mid lane.
Of course, when Yasuo is able to hit his knockups and then get his ult. I'm not sure how confident I am in the Nico's ability to survive.
Especially once the Wukong starts ganking. It's going to be practically impossible for Nitro Dude to do anything there.
In fact, we might be about to see an execute on the Zac in the jungle, although he just gets his smite in time to survive and not get killed by the red buff.
Well, it looks like Malphite's actually having quite a good time against this. Wukong doesn't quite get the kill off, but does bait out the ultimate from Galio. And now in the mid lane, it looks like a swift disengage from Nico to stop this from Yasuo. Yasuo quite happy to go back. How much damage Malphite takes from these trades. Really not a good look for him in that lane.
And as much as it is the damage being dealt to Malphite, you've also got to think, when Malphite isn't trading, Galio's getting his magic shields back, and will be unable to contest him in these trades. Or rather, the Malphite will be unable to contest the Galio in these trades.
Looks like every single one of these trades in the mid lane is going favourably for Zhang. And all NiKo can do is try and stop it getting too far.
Cool.
I mean, that was quite good for Nitro Dude, as Yasuo takes a lot of minion damage from inside that minion wave.
And the NiKo is barely hanging on with the potions and the biscuits, although I believe all the potions have been eaten up and there's only going to be one more biscuit in this game.
Interestingly, in the bot lane, both laners have exactly the same amount of CS. It's like not really anything is happening in that lane, exactly as we presumed. They'd just be farming up, not really doing much.
And another interesting thing about the bot lane is none of them have really been looking at the dragon. The cloud dragon has just been sitting there. It's been control warded by the sides of TYB. But you know, nothing's happening. Or TBD.
Well, Wukong just got level 6. I can imagine Zac is getting level 6 very soon as Galio engages onto Malphite. Malphite now down to 50% HP. He has to walk out of there, eating a corrupting potion as he goes. Nothing else is going to happen from that. But yeah, Zac probably level 6 quite soon. We're probably going to start seeing some extended skirmishes around some of those objectives. And certainly we can expect to see some Wukong engages, perhaps even followed up by Yasuo last breaths. Alistar quick. WQ takes us into a short dazzle from Tariq. Again, just to disengage and not actually looking for a fight.
I mean, it's difficult to say whether the side of DUCKO or TBD really has any priority, as we do see multiple members of both teams in the bot lane moving close around the dragon objective.
Yeah, we can expect to see a fight here. Teleport comes out, last breath comes out, everyone is dead. The Wukong ult just to finish them up. Malphite is the only one standing inside the fight, and NiKo is running. A triple kill for Stickman Roadman on the Wukong. That is huge, and such great setup for Yasuo's ult there. The knockups on this team are actually so helpful. There's a Galio, there's a Alistar, and there's a Wukong. It's so helpful for this Yasuo to be able to get the last breath off. And really then for Wukong to be able to finish that up with the Cyclone and get the triple kill. With Malphite running out on such low health, and NiKo deciding not even to join the fight at the end and to run away whilst he still could.
And of course, as soon as we saw the 3-man knockup from the Alistar, we knew it was pretty much game over in that fight. The immediate 3-man last breath from the Yasuo really just pumping out so much damage that even the relatively tanky members of DUCKO, like the Zac, just for the turret.
Zac is caught up here, and now we can imagine Wukong coming to help. The jump comes off just in time from Zac to get out of that potentially devastating fight.
We see both junglers around the Rift Herald. That might be where the next fight takes place, but if you're on the side of DUCKO, you've got to be worried about this now 3-0 Wukong.
Oh, absolutely.
In fact, you might even just have to concede the fight unless you can get a numbers advantage.
You've seen what the potential of this team composition is now in that last fight, and that was before Wukong was 3-0. Now with such gold and such items, you have to be scared of what could happen in any of these fights if you don't have the correct setup. And now Kalista in perhaps a sticky situation. The headbutt from Alistar secures Caitlyn a way out of there, and neither side is actually going to pursue that.
And Caitlyn seems quite happy to just heal up with the potions and the fleet footwork. One thing which I didn't actually pick up on before is the lack of heal in the bot lane for the side of TBD. So Caitlyn's actually opted for the exhaust rather than the heal. And you've got to wonder why that is, because there's not any particularly high damage assassins on the side of DUCKO unless you were expecting a full AP Zac.
I guess you could argue that it's further to the point that Caitlyn must prevent any engages. Although you do wonder, is it going to be a turret? A lovely flash there on the headbutt from Vilfire, really testament to his skill as an ADC. But yeah, you do wonder, is it for when the turret comes in inside the Ballista? That doesn't really feel like it makes much sense. Ballista perhaps, but now really Nitro Dude in a tough situation gets knocked up and last breath, and that is a very clean kill for Yasuo. Now Yasuo perhaps in a tough position, but being so many levels up, he knows he's safe there. He gets out and he does not get cleaned up by Jeff on the Zac.
That was an absolutely beautiful prediction with the tornado on Yasuo. He knew exactly whether Nico was going to dodge and just caught him with the side of it. And then also managed to escape without even using his flash, meaning that Nico isn't even safe when she backs and returns, or when she gets back to the lane. Some mid lane dominance, I think, coming out from the Yasuo and the side of TBD.
We're now 15 minutes into the game. We can expect perhaps the lane phase to end soon. Zac jumps top just to defend this tower. We've not seen any towers top yet, but this top lane tower perhaps is soon to fall. Nico forced to use the shapeshift, but it's not going to help Nitro Dude. The Pot Blossom is not going to save him, and that's going to be another very quick kill for Yasuo. And now an engage on the top side from Wukong and Galio. They're certainly doing well here. A second Cyclone onto the Malphite is going to secure the second kill. Perhaps the red buff does get that, and that is 2 kills on the top side for Terabyte Dynasty. Now that's 7 kills for them to 0 kills for DUCKO. And perhaps with DUCKO you really have to start thinking about a change of plans. What are you going to do at this point? Because you can't simply just say, oh, we'll scale. Because look at the side of Terabyte Dynasty, they'll scale. They have a Caitlyn, they have a Yasuo. And perhaps you have to start talking about what are we just going to sit here in lanes to keep doing what we're doing. Kalista in a bad situation ahead, but already onto her. Vilfire stunned up now, caught up by the root. The turret just in time gets the ultimate.
Oh, and a beautiful Paracle.
And now the exhaust onto Caitlyn is going to slow her up, but actually it's Vilfire who's now perhaps bit off more than he can chew. The Banshee's Veil is going to stop the dazzle from Taric, and now Taric's dead, and Zac is really now caught between a rock and a hard place. He's just out of there, but 3 people now onto this bot lane turret. They're probably just going to get this turret now. 2 towers for Terabyte Dynasty, and another 2 kills secures them a massive advantage in this game, along with now their second dragon of this game.
You've already got to be worried on the side of DUCKO. They've already got over an 8k gold advantage, and it's only, what, 18 minutes into the game. If things keep going at the same pace, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a win for the side of TBD before the 30-minute mark.
The flash from Galio gets him out to safety before he even has to worry about potentially dying in that situation. And you can see DUCKO perhaps really desperate to get something there with that engage from Zac, but they're just unable to find anything. All three members of DUCKO still in their lanes at 19 minutes of the game. They're not really thinking about changing up their strategy at all. You can see actually on Terabyte Dynasty's side, even though of course they have been so successful in lane phase, they are quite willing to change up their strategy. They're quite willing to send 3 members mid along with a Rift Herald. Of course, that first charge does nothing. The tower's already gone. And if DUCKO are lucky, this Rift Herald will not achieve much for Terabyte Dynasty. They now have all members mid, and it looks like 2 people in the bot lane here for Terabyte are just going to be able to get some great push onto this tier 2 turret in the bot lane.
Now all 3 of the tier 1 turrets are down.
Galio engages onto Malphite, and he's quite happy to just walk on out of there with absolutely no retaliation from DUCKO. Now, Wukong perhaps is going to find several members of DUCKO. A fight breaks out with the Malphite ult not achieving anything. The Kalista ult gets them all up. And Taric ultimate also used perhaps to save them, but several members of DUCKO now on low HP, and it looks like they are not going to survive. Nitro Dude picking up the Wukong on the back end of that fight, but it looks like that was just a very messy fight. Neither team looked like they were really sure of whether they were coming out on top of that, and just very scrappy from both sides. But ultimately, with such low health on so many members on DUCKO, they actually lose 3 and only 1 loss for TBD. Of course, that is the first kill of the game for DUCKO's side.
And it might look
but
like...
really, it's not really a saving grace at this point.
Well, you say that. And it might look like it was a poor fight, judging by the fact that 3 members of DUCKO died and only 1 member of TBD died, but you've got to...
Nitro Dude perhaps walking into a bad fight here, recognizes that very quickly and walks on out.
And as I was saying, the Wukong had a significant bounty, so despite only getting 1 kill, the Nico is actually able to pick up 700 gold. And I'm sure like the members of DUCKO were probably only worth around 200, 250 gold each. In terms of gold, it wasn't actually too bad of a fight for DUCKO.
Plus, every member of DUCKO got an assist. So that's some extra gold in the pockets of DUCKO. Not enough to get up to the 12 kill advantage. And the 10k gold advantage, of course, that Terabyte Dynasty have on them. But it certainly goes some way, perhaps, to salvaging something from this game.
Yes, it certainly didn't make DUCKO win, but it will perhaps give DUCKO more chances to win later in the game, and perhaps turn this game around.
That's of course if they're able to get a stage later in the game. If TBD are unable to close this out quite quickly, which I think is certainly on the cards. They could even be looking towards the Baron very soon and just closing out the game very cleanly.
We see all 5 members of TBD around the dragon.
Yes, I can't imagine there'll be much contesting on this Infernal Drake. The engage now from Alistar. Alistar not really losing out though. The Galio ult does not achieve anything though. Perhaps just to push the members of DUCKO away from that area.
Another very clean objective taken. And we really need to ask, when is the side of DUCKO going to answer? Will it be the Baron, will it be the next Drake, or will they just fail to find anything to stand up to the side of TBD?
Well, TBD are already mobilising towards that Baron. I wouldn't be surprised if they took it really soon. Wukong, perhaps not in the best position, but he's so close to Zhang's Yasuo that perhaps he can be saved, but he is caught up by Zac. The flash comes out, and it looks like he's just about out to safety there. Crisis averted, certainly, for TBD there. And now it looks like the Alphase Galio has to get out of that potentially hazardous situation as well. Again though, we just see these members of DUCKO kind of scrambling to take what fights they can. And often unable to pick and choose the fights they want. They just seem to want to engage on everything, and they're unable to. Whilst it's so different for TBD, you can see TBD don't take every fight. They only take the fights that is going to be favourable for them, and they can pick and choose and say, I want to fight this, we want to fight this, and then they do. And that happens every time.
And also, on the side of DUCKO, where is the damage? In terms of consistent, solid DPS, you only really have the one member who can dish it out, which is the 0-2 Kalista. Neeko, she's kind of limited to her burst with her ultimate, and maybe a Q or two. And then obviously there's no damage. We've
consistently seen through this game with Nitro Dude's Neeko that he often is unable to actually get lots of the damage off because of that Yasuo wind wall.
Yeah, whereas on the side of TBD, you've got the Wukong, which is an incredible source of damage, the Galio, possibly even better, and also the Caitlyn, who can safely deal a lot of damage per second from quite a distance away. And yet you still have engage from the Galio and the Alistar.
Yes, such a great crowd control on their side, all the knock-ups, and of course always being able to flow into that last breath is more than just a gimmick. It's been helping them in these fights so much. Now it looks like TBD quite happy to engage DUCKO under tower, but Alistar perhaps taking more damage than he wants to. Vilfire though now really in trouble. Yasuo is just going to get rid of that, and now Malphite is also caught up. All members, the Pop Blossom comes out from Neeko, but is only going to stun one, and now the members of DUCKO are running away. They realise this is not a favourable fight for them. All members of TBD quite healthy and quite happy to continue pushing this fight. Vilfire lost so early on in that, and now this looks like the inhibitor turret going to be taken down, and also the inhibitor taking damage from TBD. Just the objective taking in this game from TBD is just unrivaled. There is nothing seemingly that DUCKO's able to do against that.
And I think if we take a look at the timeline on top of the scoreboard, we can see these dragons, these towers, all these kills coming out to the side of TBD. But then on the side of DUCKO, we just see a long blue line with a single kill of Neeko. It's really nothing. They haven't had any impact on this game, the side of DUCKO. And now, in a few seconds, we'll see the final Infernal Drake coming up alive. And of course, if TBD is able to claim this, they will actually get the Infernal Soul, which will just seal the doom of DUCKO.
I mean, I cannot imagine that DUCKO do steal it. Yep, the Zac jumps in, and he's just going to be taken down immediately. And now not only is there an Infernal Soul for Terabyte Dynasty, there's also only 4 members of their opposite team. They can perhaps look for a Baron here, or just look to end the game. They go up towards the Baron. There is absolutely nothing that Dukes of Khmor can do here to stop them taking this Baron. They have to take a miracle for them to steal this away. Yeah, the damage from TBD is so great. They just take that Baron so quickly, and then we can imagine this is just going to be a very swift running down the mid lane, ending the game pretty much in the next few minutes. I would be surprised if it went on any longer than that.
Yeah, I very much doubt, with all the bonus damage coming from both Infernal Drake, the Infernal Soul, and the AP and AD amp from the side of TBD, it's pretty much game over. In fact, I would not be surprised if we see a surrender vote coming out from the side of DUCKO.
Yeah, multiple lanes pushing now with the Baron buff empowered, and it looks like no member of DUCKO is able to actually defend against this. You can see even Malphite taking such damage, like he was at the beginning of the game, really, and not able to act as a great defense here.
See the mid lane inhibitor turret coming down with just no real opposition.
Galio probably wants to get this third inhibitor. Not that it means much at this point. It really just seals the deal. Nails the last, nails on the coffin as a huge fight breaks out. But I cannot see any way of DUCKO winning this. There is absolutely nothing they're able to do. As a triple kill for Zhang on the Yasuo. Pretty much the same as we've seen every single fight this game. And that is an incredibly clean win for Terabyte Dynasty. 19 kills to 1.
So, that was an incredibly quick fight. We just saw every single ultimate, every single ability coming out for both teams. But actually, the Galio, by a significant margin, does more damage than both of them. In fact, in that game, the Galio dealt over 2 times the damage of Wukong. I think that really shows the top lane dominance. It's not something we didn't really expect to see much from the top lane, but then Galio just seems to have done so much for the side of TBD.
No, absolutely. From the beginning of the game, we saw Galio out of all lanes bullying the Malphite so much, and there was nothing that seemingly DUCKO was able to do against that. I was surprised actually that Zac wasn't going top lane early on, because Galio was so far pushed up. It looked like a gank that was possible for Zac to come up and get a gank off and perhaps put some pressure back onto the Galio, but no, Galio pretty much reigned uncontested in the top lane, always exerting such pressure on that top lane tower and onto the Malphite.
So now we are slowly waiting for the second game to start, and we've got to think, what will DUCKO learn from that last game? Will they be able to turn it around? Or will it just be a repeat of last game with lane dominance and then no real change from the playstyle of DUCKO?
Okay, we go into the second pick ban
No
phase.
cure for fools.
Looks like actually they're going same side. Okay.
And we see the respectful Yasuo ban targeting Minadazaki. So they don't want a repeat of last game. And we actually see a Vladimir ban as well. That's a repeat ban from last game, as is the Kaisar on the side of TBD.
Right.
Ah, come on. What's the worst that could happen?
So on the side of TBD, we don't really have much respect. We just have the repeated bans from last game. However, on the side of DUCKO, both the Yasuo and the Caitlyn are new bans, which are obviously targeting the players of TBD.
Scared of those picks from last game, and now Vilfire back onto a champion that he's more known for, and perhaps from what we've seen in games before, perhaps a lot more confident and competent on is that Xayah. Sorry, for Vilfire. We've seen it very often, of course, paired with NHX's signature Rakan pick. And so, that's our first variation, of course, that we could see, certainly perhaps leading to a win for the Dukes. Of course, the Alistair and Wukong pick for Terabyte, as the saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It certainly seems like they're quite happy to continue with potentially the same pick and ban phase as they went in last game. But more variation, instead of the Zac, the Olaf pick now for Jeff.
And that's definitely targeting the Wukong, since Olaf has quite a beneficial matchup into the Wukong. He can really hold his punches against him, which Zac, you can't really say the same for. We also see, of course, Taric is an engaged support, but the Leona is an incredible engaged support. So much CC, and also a surprising amount of damage.
And now the Sylas pick instead of the Yasuo. Of course, the Yasuo was banned, so a variation there. Sylas in the mid lane. Not sure if he's able to achieve as much as Yasuo was able to achieve in last game, but certainly there's such versatility there, such flexibility, with able to pick from all those ultimates that the Dukes are bringing to the table.
And of course, the Leona ult on Sylas, that is a scary thing to behold. It's got a massive base damage, good AP ratio, and of course, so impactful in a 5v5 team fight.
We can talk about the fact that actually, interestingly, Terabyte have banned the Malphite here, perhaps then expecting not to play Galio this game because the Galio was such a favourable matchup into Malphite.
We also see the Rise ban coming out, so whether that's targeting a Rise top lane,
Let me get in there.
or whether they just didn't really take into account the fact that the mid lane has already picked his champ.
Yeah, there's not the Galio pick this game, it seems. Offers Singed, Griven, Garen. Of course, this is a blind pick top lane. You always have to be scared with those things because people can be counter-picked so easily.
Oh, and we see the Nasus for the side of DUCKO. So that really is a character who can just sit in the top lane, can anchor still, and if he doesn't get disturbed, will just take over the game for the side of DUCKO.
Finally, Nitro Dude picking Ari. Similar pick, perhaps, to Nico in the mobility and the damage kind of factors there. But perhaps thinking that the Nico wasn't as successful as perhaps they'd hoped last game, changing it up there. In fact, every single pick on the Duke's side has been swapped out, has been changed. There's nothing similar in that regard. Of course, the Alistar and the Wukong remaining as sticking points for TBD's side. And of course, they can't pick up the Caitlyn for ADC, they pick up Fortune instead. An interesting pick, I'd think. Perhaps unorthodox for an ADC.
Well, we'll have to see what the massive AoE damage from Misfortune is going to do to the side of DUCKO, because they don't really have any.
That's what I'm saying.
They don't really have any super long-ranged hard CC to prevent the Misfortune from.
Well, they have the
cutting
Leona
through.
ultimate.
At the same time, if I think you'd probably want to save the Leona ultimate for maybe an engage or to perhaps peel the Wukong or the Silas off your carries. So having to use it for the Misfortune.
The AoE that Wukong will be doing in these fights is not going to be in the same place as where Misfortune is doing her AoE. And so really, as Leona, you have to think, do I ult Misfortune or do I ult Wukong? And also, if you're ulting Wukong, you're probably also ulting Silas and Singed and Alistar. But then Misfortune will still be using her ultimate on the fight. And so it's certainly a tough decision for the Dukes in any of these fights. And it looks like certainly, actually, they're going again for just this big kind of wombo combo AoE type team composition.
Whereas we see the split pushes of Olaf and Nasus on the side of DUCKO. So maybe if the Nasus is able to get fed, get all his stacks, and start, hitting those turrets for 800 damage in auto, then will we even get to a 5v5, or will it be constant splits of maybe 3 people sent to deal with the Nasus, and then it's a 2v4? If the Nasus is able to really capitalize on his game plan, the wombo combo of TBD will be much less effective. Now we see Vilfire in Twitch chat, showboating a bit, talking about how he's insing with Callista, but now the Xayah has been brought out. We'll have to see whether his words come true or whether he's going to be, you know, in a similar position to last game where he just isn't able to impact the state of the game. But if any bot lane can really get an advantage early without any jungle assistance or even, you know, swinging a 2v3, it is the Leona and the Xayah. So much damage from both of those champions and also so much CC. The only bad thing, I suppose, is the lack of mobility. So if the Wukong's able to get really up in their faces and start hitting them, then not much will be able to be done. So, in terms of the skins on both sides, we now luckily have more than one skin in the game to talk about. We've got the Lunar Guardian Nasus, a very, very good skin. You know, he goes Super Saiyan with his ultimate. I believe it's a 1350 skin. But of course, the one that draws your attention on the side of DUCKO is the Prestige Edition.
Yeah, it looks like I'm seeing a pattern in terms of these dukes using prestige skins. But I'm not sure whether these prestige skins are actually helping them or not.
And we see another mastery advantage for the side of TBD, with the Singe actually having 400,000 points. And once again, you've got to ask yourself, what kind of person puts 400,000 points on Singed? It's almost as bad as being a Garen main. But, you know, we'll have to see whether all that time invested into running around with poison behind you will pay off in this game versus the Nasus. And it looks like once again we'll see a very uninteresting start with just the kind of counter invading, but then no side's really gonna attempt to invade.
Yeah, just a classic 5-point start for both sides. Both sides quite happy not to actually push for any early advantages. Singe perhaps walking a bit forward, though I doubt he's actually going to do anything, especially early on if he doesn't have flip. Not much he can do. Well, he finds the Nasus, and that's certainly an early advantage for Ninjago on the Nasus.
Well, you got to ask yourself. Oh, and then the pause comes out, so we'll be this time it's a pause on the side of TBD. Apparently someone's Discord isn't working.
Okay, well, unpause. Start.
And we see the blue side start from both junglers. Olaf might actually be looking for an early invade into the red side of TBD. But it looks like he's gonna just take the Raptors and get out of there. Although we might see an early kill onto the Olaf.
Really caught out already. The Silas doing such damage, and Wukong just able to get out of there on a sliver of health. But Olaf really not in a good position there. An early kill for TBD. Not quite the same start as we saw last game. But still an advantage all the same for Terabyte.
It's very foolhardy.
Whether they can do something with that advantage remains to be seen, of course.
I think it is very foolhardy of the Olaf to attempt an engage.
But another engage in the bot lane rooted up both members of the TBD bot lane. Vilfire, though, not really walking forward. He doesn't want to continue that fight. The root more so used as a disengage tool in that skirmish.
You definitely see a lack of communication between the players on the side of DUCKO. For example, the earlier play where Olaf got caught out at Raptors, and also the Leona walking back in and using exhaust when Vilfire already wasn't.
Now a very nice trade from Zhang's Ari, Nitro Dude's Ari onto Zhang's Silas. Apologise, I haven't moved some of these champion portraits. There we go now, Nasus rooted up by Singed. Bit of damage going on to him there, but also minion damage onto Singed is actually going to mean that both trades are pretty much equal. Wow, these double ups doing such damage from Misfortune. And the cannon missed, unfortunately, for Hillfire. Even so, CS pretty much the same on both sides. Apart from perhaps the top lane, a slight advantage for Singed, although Nasus has quite the wave coming in now, perhaps to get back up to that advantage Singed has at the moment.
And we see the Nasus hasn't really been denied of any stacks. Of course, he's already on over 50 stacks. And to be honest, at 5 minutes, that's on track for where he wants to be as Nasus. So we might have to see some jungle from the red side to try and shut this Nasus down and stop him from becoming the mid to late game powerhouse he is.
Well, a pause comes just now. Apparently someone's internet acting up.
A summoner has disconnected.
And we see the misfortune disconnect. Hopefully this they can swiftly reconnect and we can be on with our game.
Okay, apparently they're okay to come back now. We should be seeing an unpause soon. Yep, play was a few seconds. Now we get to a small trade in the top lane. Nasus has no mana, whilst the Alpha is sitting quite comfortably with enough mana on this Singe, uses the Ghost, and the Flash is not going to save Nasus, as Nasus is going to be taken down there. The Mastery 7 being flashed at the end, and now Olaf in a bit of a tough position. If there is a fling available, the Singe uses it, and that's a second kill, aided by the Corrupting Pot there onto Olaf, and a 2-0 Singe, Mastery 7 Singe, 400k. That is not a great look for the Dukes.
Well, of course, Singed is very powerful when he's activated his ultimate. The amped already all of his stats. Couldn't really contest. Well, the 0 mana Nasus couldn't really contest him. But once again, I feel like there are these just small micro misplays coming from the side of DUCKO. So the Nasus, he could have just really easily flashed under his turret when the Finch started to engage. But yeah, he didn't, and both he and the Olaf died because of it. It's really not very intelligent, perhaps, play coming from the side of DUCKO.
Now Olaf showing his head in the bot lane, of course, walking across a red side ward. Now, perhaps Singed knows he's safe for another engage onto this Nasus, because Nasus is not going to be getting any help from Olaf anytime soon. And also Wukong kind of prepping around this Drake side, bot side, Scuttle. Perhaps trying to get this Drake soon, and you can see Nasus really being bullied. It feels a lot like last game. Of course, last game it was the Galio bullying the Malphite. Now it's a Singed bullying the Nasus, but it's pretty much the same story. Again, the fling comes out. Nasus taking such damage. I mean, I must say that Q does a lot of damage from Nasus. Still, he's unable to keep up in these trades.
Yeah, the Singe, after he did get his kill on the Nasus, has kind of been able to stop the stacks. The Nasus only on about 100 stats.
Nasus uses Wither onto Singe. Singe uses Ghost to get away, and I don't think Olaf's going to be able to catch up. Although the Charm, just in time, catches on to Singe, and that's a shutdown from Nitro Dude. Nitro Dude doing so well. Unfortunately, Olaf has bitten off more than he can chew, and he goes down. Silas now on such low health, and the ultimate comes down from Nasus to perhaps try to get this kill. Such low health, he's not going to get caught up by the Charm, and now he gets out on just a sliver of health. That could have went so well for the Dukes. Unfortunately, they only get themselves one kill in return, although it's onto Nitro Dude Zari, and Nitro Dude Zari now doing quite well. He's 1-0. He's got a significant CS advantage on the Silas, and we can perhaps see that Nitro Dude might be the saving grace for DUCKO in this game.
Hmm.
Although you say that and then you see him take 2 tower shots.
So yeah, the Nasus, normally at around 10 minutes, you want to have about 200 stacks of his Q. However, Nasus is only on about 120. So really the kill early onto the Nasus by the Singe has set him quite far behind the ideal Nasus.
Gold.
Yeah.
Olaf again showing bottom, but Wukong has seen him and he's perhaps now going to be a bit stuck, because you can see that Silas is also coming down. Olaf just about gets to safety there. But the dragon is being pinged and the headbutt comes out from Alistair. The solar flare from Leona will just about save them from Alistair, and now a root will perhaps get the kills for DUCKO's side. Alistair running for his life. He might get caught up by Leona here. He does. And Vilfire, another kill for the bot lane. 2 kills after what looked like such a good engage for TBD's side. Actually, after the ultimate from Leona and the ultimate from Vilfire was able to be turned back, and of course they got rooted under tower. The stun from Silas onto Ari is going to prevent that trade, and suddenly Vilfire and Batman were able to turn that around. And now also Wukong being stunned up, unable to steal that dragon, forced also to flash away. Silas on low health. He uses the Ari ultimate to get away, and he gets quite a bit of health back. But Olaf, unfortunately, is just consistently in the wrong place at the wrong time. And now Olaf is 0-4. Whilst the only other person in his team who has a death is Nasus with 1 death.
And if anything, you could also partially blame the Nasus death on the Olaf, as the Nasus thought he was flashing into safety when when the Olaf came top, then just got double killed by the Singe. So if you're the Olaf on the side of DUCKO, you've really got to be thinking, okay, what am I doing wrong? And what can I learn from what I'm doing?
It's quite sad really, looking top lane. All we see every single time the camera pans there is Singe flinging Nasus and just bullying him all the time. Olaf now gets a throwing axe down onto Alistar. I imagine Alistar will be able to get out of this. You could already see Olaf taking quite a lot of damage from Misfortune, and he's just going to disengage. Interesting to note also that first rate of the game did go over indeed to the Duke's side rather than TBD, like we consistently saw with objectives last game, and so perhaps that spells that there's going to be quite a difference in the outcome of this game.
Well, we can only hope. It'd be very interesting to get a game 3 and see, after both teams have lost and both teams have had an opportunity to learn something from these games. We now see the Wukong in a potentially dangerous position, but he's able to go invisible and run away. We now see the
engage from Silas onto Ari. Ari forced actually to ult away, I believe there.
I think that just goes to show the volatility of Silas. Able to so easily and so quickly just jump onto the Ari and deal so much damage.
Now Nasus, this time, is actually quite happy to continue fighting against Singed. Singed is forced to use both ult and Ghost to get away from there. Vilfire, though, also used ult. Leona has used ult as well to try and get Vilfire to safety. Vilfire is eventually able to get out, and it's actually such low health on the Wukong ensures that he's not going to continue following up onto that fight.
I think we're going to have to pay attention to the bot lane for the next minute or so, as the Ocean Drake is coming up in just over 40 seconds, and whichever lane is pushed out and has more priority will hopefully be able to secure the Drake, and thus secure either a greater lead for the side of TBD, or maybe even it up to the side of DUCKO.
Anyway, it certainly seems a lot more even than last game. There's a lot more up in the air of who's going to win a small 2k gold advantage, or TBD. Small engage there from Silas in the mid lane, but he doesn't actually want to follow it up. I think he is quite scared of this Ari. TBD now coming for their first Drake of the game, perhaps to even out that objective advantage that DUCKO made for themselves. They're able to steal it. The Olaf gets a steal there, perhaps redemption for his deaths this game. He's now got 2 Drakes and a Rift Herald, taking all the objectives he possibly can in this game.
Well, that is the thing with picking the Olaf in the jungle. Even if you are slightly behind, you're still so strong that you're just able to walk in and take these objectives and be relatively healthy while you're doing it. Or, of course, that was a very skillful steal with the smite from the Olaf.
Now the Rift Storm mid lane.
That will
ensures that Silas cannot continue this fight. Silas on such low health, it looks like he's not going to be able to get out of there. No! At the end, both of them die. Silas just about managing to get the Ari kill there, and Wukong and Olaf similarly do the same thing. Both the mid laners kill each other and the junglers kill each other in that fight. And the Rift Herald on just a bit of health there is going to die to the minions, and they get both tier 1 and tier 2 towers in the mid lane, as the Alphaeon Singed gets the first tower in the top lane. It's now 2-2 towers for both teams, and only a small 2-kill advantage at 19 minutes for TBD. Although Nasus now, I don't imagine he'll be able to get out of this. He's simply stunned up and taken down by Silas. A 3rd kill advantage for Terabyte Dynasty.
And you've also got to worry about the Silas getting fed. That is very much a late game hyper carry champ. Once he picks up his items, he becomes pretty much unkillable. So now we just see the both teams kind of positioning themselves, clearing vision, and getting ready, perhaps for a Baron team fight.
Yeah, neither side is sure whether they want to take a fight here. Although it looks like Terabyte walking down now into this first mid lane tower. Of course, under a minute until the next dragon spawns, and that's so, and so that's an objective that both teams can be looking to get, as well as of course that Baron which has just spawned a minute ago.
We see the Nasus perhaps caught out of position.
Yep, now he showed he's just trying to get out of there. I don't think this is going to be easy to catch up with him for TBD. He did use that flash early on to actually get out of any kind of kill range. And of course the members of TBD did eventually just walk away from that situation.
The Nasus is sitting at about 300 stacks, which is in a similar position to he was before. He's 100 stacks behind the Nasus Dream, I'd say, at this point. And the fact that...
So really what it is that Singed was kind of stopping him during the laning phase, but now he's quite free to get the stacks that he needs to get. All members of DUCKO now coming. Wukong already taken down very early on in that fight. The ultimate used by both Nasus and Leona to secure that kill and to secure the subsequent dragon. They know we only need to kill the Wukong and then we can get the dragon, and they obviously don't follow up on the rest of the kills. Certainly a good decision there, just to focus on the Wukong and then focus on the objective. They're playing quite a different game to what we saw them playing last game, and it's paying off for them.
We see the Singed coming around, perhaps going to try and kill the RE.
Oh, he uses an early ultimate actually to get out of there. I would have allowed Singe to fling me because Olaf was so near. They could have actually killed
And we look, if we take a quick look in the bot lane, we see the Nasus doing what Nasus wants to do. He's sat there, he's farming up, he's getting stacks, and it looks like he might be hitting the turret soon.
He's quite content to just sit there, split pushing. Although now a teleport coming down from Singe and perhaps some other members of Terabyte Dynasty perhaps walking down there. Nasus, of course, understands this. He just takes the recall.
Content with wasting the Singe teleport, but now he has to walk all the way back up to mid lane, back with his team.
Where he just was, yeah. One small consolation price for that is that control ward in the Drake pit.
So really what I want to be seeing from this Singe is perhaps if he can go down in the same lane as the Nasus is split pushing in, and then instead of having to teleport down, if his team starts to rotate towards a Baron fight, perhaps he can come in from the rear, spread his poison all around the back line of DUCKO, and then perhaps, you know, win the fight and be able to get that Baron for free.
Alistair just about missed by the Zenith Blade from Leona, is going to ensure that he doesn't actually end up being taken down there by the Dukes. Nasus, headbutt used on him by Alistar, and now also Olaf flung into such a bad position, ensures that he's taken down before he can really retaliate at all. Nasus, although, does survive the onslaught from Miss Fortune's ult, and now the Zenith Blade finds the outfight, the Alpha Singe, but he's so fast he runs away, and the ultimate, the Leona ultimate is finding the team. Multiple members of DUCKO there taken down. I believe that was Silas using the Leona ultimate.
Once again, it's just these small micro misplays, like the Olaf not hitting the ultimate when he gets caught up in Singed, like the Xayah using the ultimate early, perhaps, when it could have been saved for the engage by the Silas. If they're able to iron out these small mistakes, I can definitely see the game going to the side of DUCKO. There is a deficit, but it's definitely it's not too large. Only 4k gold at 26 minutes.
Yeah, it's definitely fixable. Oh, finding Miss Fortune, although it was a bit slow, perhaps, from both members to actually realise that they'd found each other. So nothing actually comes from it.
And there we actually see maybe why the exhaust is being used by the Miss Fortune. She basically gets to match the Nasus's Wither with her own summoner spell. And now we see the dragon spawning. This would be the Cloud Soul if DUCKO was going to be able to get it. However, of course, that remains to be seen.
And isn't it so interesting, actually, that last game we saw every single Drake going over to Terabyte, and now even though both teams have exactly the same side selection, this time it's DUCKO that have 3 out of 4 Drakes, and they might even get this 4th one now.
Looks like the pink ward has been cleared.
Cloud Drake being started, although a ward is also dropped in the pit, so they start walking away from it, dragging it out of the pit. The teleport comes down. Does it come down in time? No. They've taken the Drake. The engage starts. The Miss Fortune ultimate only finds 1, and Miss Fortune's going to be taken down by Nasus. Nasus in the back line, though, does not help those in the front line. Ari running for her life. Nasus doing so much. He's already taken down 3, and he might be taken down by Silas here. Silas does not catch Ari, and that's 4 down on DUCKO and 3 down on TBD's side. Nasus was doing so much in the back line of TBD in that fight, but then TBD's front line with that Silas and that Singe were just running around the squishier members such as Xayah and the Ahri, and there wasn't really much that Xayah and Ahri were able to do there, especially when their tanky member Nasus was so far away.
Now we see 7 kills on the Silas, and you've really got to be worried. Some might compare Silas to kind of a melee assassin version of Vladimir, with so much late game healing and damage. And it's going to be really hard to disrupt that Silas and his game plan, which is jump on the carries, one-shot them, and then heal back to full health off the W.
I mean, yeah, that 7-1 really makes him a formidable opponent, a really scary opponent at this point, and perhaps they need to be paying more attention to what the Silas is doing in these fights, especially when Silas is stealing some of these ultimates, some of these huge ultimates like the Leona ultimate, and doing so much with them. and there's not really a way in which DUCKO are responding. The Zenith Blade and the ultimate just about finds Singed, but Singed still gets away, as we've seen so many times this game using the Ghost and the ultimate. He's always able to get away. Billfire just about stops his recall, but still it's not going to really mean anything in the long term.
So we're seeing a bit of a... Not really much is happening at the moment. There isn't a dragon to do, and neither team is kind of brave enough to start angling towards the Baron. So we might just be seeing some pointless mid lane team fights, or maybe some Silas or Nasa split pushing and trying to secure safe objectives that way.
Leona now caught up, and she's just going to be taken down, and there wasn't even much of a fight to go with it. She just kind of bit off a bit more than she can chew, trying to again take down the Singed. Leona keeps trying to take down Singed, and unable to do so, Leona ends up going down herself.
One purchase on the side of TBD, which I think would be quite interesting, is potentially the Magi Soul Stealer onto the Singed. We see he's got 10 Dark Field back. Perhaps spending that 1k gold and gaining such a massive amount of AP might be worth it, despite the extra risk, of course, with losing so many stacks on death.
Well, of course, with this Scuttle being taken topside, a bit of Baron control coming down for Terabyte Dynasty.
We see 4 of the members of TBD starting to go around the Drake and the bot side jungle of DUCKO. Of course, the Drake is coming up in 11 seconds, and if they're able to secure this, then that will once again prevent the side of DUCKO from getting the Cloud Soul, and it will be started by the side of TBD. What will Nasus be able to do?
Nasus already headbutted out, but Wukong taken down so early on in the fight means they're not able to use the Cyclone to his advantage. Nasus so far up in the fight, stopping them from getting onto the Cloud Drake, but Nasus now also taken down Singed, running circles around DUCKO's side. The headbutt actually sends Olaf outside of the Drake pit, and it means that TBD are able to secure the dragon. The remaining members of DUCKO running for their lives, and Singed is doing so much in this fight.
You've got to really hand it to the Alistar and the in fact the Alistar, the Silas, and the Singed in that fight.
It's so much.
Singed was Silas was able to secure the top side inhibitor. Alistar not only headbutted the Nasus away, and then also headbutted the Olaf out of the pit, so they were able to secure the Drake.
The headbutts, yeah, were so good in that fight and so influential.
And then the Singed just dealing so much damage while being so hard to remove. It's definitely you know, difficult for DUCKO to secure these objectives and win these fights. Yeah.
And it must be so disappointing for DUCKO that some of these Leona ultimates are not actually stopping TBD from engaging them. I mean, they'll take sometimes 1 or 2 members if they're lucky out in the fight, such as the Wukong. But even when TBD lose such an influential team fight, ultimate, such as Wukong the Cyclone, they're still able to use so many other ultimates, such as the Fortune ultimate, or able to use Alistar and Singed and Silas in these fights to just do so much.
I mean, and as well as that, that was a 4v5. The Silas was sitting in the top lane taking turrets, and they still were able to win that quite handedly.
And suddenly, we're looking at 9 kills for the Dukes to 17 kills. Almost double that for Terabyte Dynasty.
So despite the fact that TBD are, well, they're in the driving seat once again, there is definitely much more resistance being put up by the side of DUCKO. And maybe if this was a best of 5 set, in game 3 you might see a much more even, maybe even a game win for the side of DUCKO, as we
But
see
now,
Olaf.
I can't imagine he's able to do anything here. He uses the ultimate. He does get out, actually. And with the rest of DUCKO coming in so quickly, he's able to be saved. And that tower is able to be saved, but I can't imagine it's going to be saved for long, as the members of TBD come back to it and take it down now. And they're going to continue pushing. They could perhaps even look to start a Baron soon. There is, of course, that blue control ward in the pit, so if they do, DUCKO will know about it. But whether they can test it, whether they can contest it, is perhaps another question entirely.
An interesting purchase we see from the side of DUCKO is actually the Executioner's Calling and the Thornmail onto the Nasus. So I think these are actually quite intelligent purchases, because they've identified the fact that the Silas healing is a threat, and then he's, you know, tried to work to try and negate that as much as possible.
I mean, you can see that the Wukong has a Death Stance and the Misfortune has a Bloodthirster. So that's 3 members of TBD who are actually using healing in a kit, and so the Grievous Wounds from that Thornmail can really actually help to combat some of that healing. He has now sold the Execution. But Zaya's taken it. Zaya's taken an Execution instead. I can imagine they probably communicated that in comms. Get Zaya to take the Executioners and to have Nasus take the Thornmail.
Yep.
And perhaps aid them in some of these fights.
I mean, and Singed, when he has his ultimate active, also has such a massive amount of regeneration from, of course, the I think it's plus 300% health regen per second. So, you know, that's a significant amount of health being restored.
Looks like TBD wants to get the 3rd cloud. Remember, if Jeff can steal this, that is the cloud soul. He does not, though. Singed on low health still is out, and Alistar in the middle of the fight is taking 0 damage. Once again, the Misfortune does not find anyone, but Vilfire in such a tough position, he just gets saved by the Ahri, and now Alistar gets down, and so does Misfortune, and that is a triple kill, an ace from Nasus. Nasus doing so much in these fights, and it was insane there that Ahri, Nitro Dude, was able to save Vilfire when Vilfire was really on just the tiniest bit of health left, and suddenly DUCKO are able to walk down into the base of TBD, and TBD have such long regen timers that perhaps DUCKO are literally able to end the game here. They're already onto the 1st Nexus Tower, the 2nd Nexus Tower is being focused on, and finally the Nexus is being focused on, while still no one is alive on TBD, and that is the game 2 win for DUCKO to equalize the series and take the teams to a game 3 in this series. Suddenly, they bring that back from what seemed like the brink of disaster. And I can only imagine how disappointed and how annoyed Terabyte are, because they were so close to winning and there was just a single team fight where perhaps they wanted a bit more than they could get, and the Nasus is able to do so much in these fights.
Nasus is just... he was just able to do so much there. That's just testament to why Nasus is such a strong champion. Not only did he didn't win lane, and yet he is just able to, wait, stack up, and then absolutely obliterate the backline of TBD. Then after that, not only was he able to do so much in that last team fight, the massive Nasus damage onto the turrets just meant they were able to swiftly push and end the game before any of them could respawn. That's just... it's absolutely... it's just disheartening for the side of DUCKO. I mean, for the side of TBD. And maybe I would not be surprised to see a Nasus ban coming out in our next game.
Now the final pick ban of
No
the
cure
series.
for fools.
And again, side selection is exactly the same. DUCKO on blue side, TBD on red side. But of course, in those two games, completely different results.
We'll see the ore ban coming out. So far, the same bans by TBD in both games. We'll see if they decide to ban the Nasus last.
Right.
Although, one other option TBD has is if they save their top laner for last pick and perhaps do a swap, then they can get a very beneficial matchup into the Nasus
What's the worst that could happen?
and perhaps destroy him. For example, maybe an ADC top laner like Vayne or Quinn. They can just ruin Nasus's day and stop him from getting any stacks at all.
I mean, I thought that Singed pick was actually so good, though, for TBD. It's obviously very competent champion. I think there's other areas where they can improve in the draft. But also, in both games, what we've seen is TBD basically outclassing DUCKO. I'm not saying it was a fluke that DUCKO won the last game, but certainly, perhaps, TBD don't need to look to change things up, and they can think, actually, last game was successful enough that we can do the same thing again.
Now we see the Vladimir being hovered by the side of TBD. That is a very strong late game champion, similar to the Silas. And also is quite a beneficial matchup top lane into the Nasus. So we'll have to see what happens from here on out, as we do see the Nasus being picked up.
The Nasus is picked again. I can't imagine that DUCKO want to change up their draft too much from last game. Perhaps the jungler is one of those points, though, that they can look to change.
And perhaps if you have bad positioning, Kane is the champion for you. Just being able to walk through the walls and safely escape from pretty much any bad scenario. As we see the Galio being picked up for the Alfie. So we saw how well he did in game one. He's able to bully the Malphite, but in many ways, I think that in this particular matchup, Nasus is far less of a pushover than the Malphite. So we'll have to see whether.
I'm interested whether perhaps the Galio is for support. If of course the support there picked Vladimir, because Vladimir is not a support, so perhaps they're looking to swap.
I'm thinking that the Vladimir was picked up for the side of Minadazaki-sana, actually. Since, in all these previous games, the Vladimir has been banned, and I think they definitely seem to target ban the mid laner of TBD quite a lot.
Ash picked up this time. I did think perhaps they wouldn't be too happy with the Misfortune pick from last game. I found that even though that ultimate can be so influential, usually in the team fights, the ultimate never found more than one player, often being the Nasus, who kind of just rubbed it off. And so I'm not surprised by the fact that they've changed that particular pickup. I am surprised though at Nitro Dude's Zerath pick. Quite a different pick actually from Ari or Nico, who has such mobility. Zerath really lacks mobility, and it might actually not help, because you saw so often in the last two games Nitro Dude being caught out, but then using the mobility of those champions to get out. But if he doesn't have the mobility, he might just end up getting out and not being able to do anything, especially against a Zed pick in the mid lane.
So that does look like it's either the Vladimir top lane. Oh no, it is a Vladimir mid lane, and it looks like it's Zed support, which is definitely an interesting pick for the side of TBD. Zed isn't really a champion you typically see in the support role. He's
I don't see how they could possibly go any other way than putting Zed mid, Galio support, and Vladimir top. I would be willing to say that perhaps it's more likely that the players have swapped roles. Unless you really think that they're taking Zed support, and Galio top into Nasus is not even... I mean, why would you not take Zed into Zerath here? And take Vladimir into Nasus?
Yeah.
It just feels like it makes so much more sense. Perhaps what they've said is that... I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if what they said is because Zhang is so competent on Vladimir, they've said, you go top lane on Vladimir, and they've said because the Alpha is so competent on Galio, you go support on Galio, and perhaps they've done a three-way lane swap. Perhaps.
In fact, I'm briefly going to check the check up on this Zed player, Renali 1001, to see whether he is a support main, because for all we know, he might be a mid lane Zed main. He might be able to just snowball this game out of the hands of DUCKO and bring a swift victory. And it does actually look well, actually he's an ARAM main, so that throws everything out of proportion. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where all these different champions go. And we can only hope for the side of TBD that they don't have a Zed support and they've shifted it around somewhat.
I think it's most likely that they think that because those players are most competent champions, that they've switched around. I mean, of course it could be No.
It could be Z top. It could be Z top. I'm actually quite a fan of the Z top into a matchup such as Nasus, as you're able to, with the shurikens, bully them out so much so often. And then especially if
I
you're
guess
able
you
to
could
have
say
a
that
level
just
lead,
Zed and Galio of lane swap. That's it.
and you're able to
Although
pick up.
three-way lane swap feels better in this
Hmm.
situation. Taking the Zed against Zerath feels like it.
Mm. I mean, and also the Zerath into Vladimir matchup is quite beneficial for the Zerath. Because Vladimir, especially if you've taken Barrier or Exhaust, has very little kill pressure before the late game, since he needs to use his gap closer of Flash to just be able to get onto the Zerath in the first place and not to follow the
Surely,
flashes
yeah,
of
they
the
want to
Zerath.
take that Vladimir into the Nasus. Would make sense.
Yes. It will all be revealed in 8 seconds, so...
Just a few seconds.
So, as the client loads up, we're able to see the skins. We see the Cosmic Dusk Zyre again, as well as the Lunar Guardian Nasus. No reason to change those up. But then we do see the Dark Star Zerath. A very new skin, and a very good skin. And on the side of TBD, we have Galaxy Slayer Z, an absolutely, well, a great skin, and also Soul Steel of Vlad, which is, you know, it's all right.
I'll quickly turn some of these around. Mastery-wise, again, no surprises here. A mastery advantage, TBD. Although a few good masteries on their opponent's side, on DUCKO's side. Of course, we know that Vilfire is good on the Zyre. And to be honest, we know that Ninjago is good on the Nasus. Seen in.
And we do see the
That's
support
good.
Z coming out with the steel shoulder guards. This is quite an interesting lane, the Ash Z. I don't think we've seen that one in pro play, but in this particular game, maybe it'll pay off. But I'm doubting it somewhat. Yeah, we really did not expect the Z to end up in the bot lane. However, it looks like this playstyle is going to be what's happening.
Welcome to Summoner's
But there is a Vladimir in the top lane. So that's one, that is a lane swap for two of the players.
Just perhaps
Although
not the
two
ones
players
we were
that we'd
expecting.
least expect.
As for this mid lane matchup,
spawned.
I would definitely say it goes to the Galio, since he is able to just survive the poke and deal so much damage when he actually is able to get on the Zerath. Top lane is obviously very positive for Vladimir early game, but then it slowly turns to Nasus' favour, and then I can't say there's an advantage for the Z bot lane. I think it's going to be Zyre and Taric all the way.
I mean, he was so competent on the Alistar. feels like such a shift.
Well,
I would say really in the bot lanes we've seen before, it's the Alistar that was the shining light for TBD.
well, there are, we might be surprised as we see the early gank coming into the mid lane. So not much damage onto the Galio. Whoa.
Galio onto Zerath. Zerath gets to 40% health there. It's quite the engage.
I mean, that is the strength of Galio, where he's able to weather the hits from these poke champions like Zerath until he can eventually get a good engage and deal so much damage with his combo.
Flash Dazzle from Taric gets them a quick engage onto Ashe. Ashe also forced a flash, but Zed perhaps showing some of why he picked Zed's support. Vilfire does not go down there, just about survives with the aid of the heal and the flash.
That is unfortunate for the Zed support. He almost had him. He almost dealt enough damage, but Vilfire just saved by only 30 health. So we see a nice little trade coming for the Zerath mid lane, able to hit his stun. One thing of note is that the Infernal Drake is up and alive. So if we see any jungle pressure in the bottom side, then whoever comes out on top will probably be able to secure that Drake and an early lead for their team.
Interesting there actually, that the smite from Wukong was really early. He wasn't actually able to get the stuff. need pings from Wukong onto the Drake. It's obviously a point that they really want to get towards you, is an Infernal Drake. Galio positioning around there. There is a ward though. He places the control which spots it out. And there's a DUCKO now positioning around the Drake. Because of that control, they can't actually see what's going on inside. Of course, nothing's going on inside. Might be able to clear that.
You see probably the most boring top lane yet, with the Nasus just slowly farming up and the Vladimir, you know, getting a small amount of poke down, but it's just negligible. There's so much sustain on both sides that nothing can really happen unless there's some jungle intervention. One interesting thing though is the level 6 on the Zed. So if he's able to find his way onto the Xayah, he'll be able to absolutely blow her up.
Nothing really happening, but Kayn positioning around top lane. Of course, this Vladimir is quite pushed up, so the gank onto the Vladimir. The taunt comes up onto Zerath, which gets into 50% HP, but Vladimir is so low, forced to use Pool and Flash. The Kayn ultimate comes down, but I don't think they're actually going to get that kill on Vladimir. Vladimir just about gets out because of the great survivability, of course, of that champion.
As well as this, the Nasus normally relies on his Wither to chase down champions.
Onto Kayn. Kayn's now quite in a bad position. The flash used by Wukong, perhaps a bit early. The Blast Cone probably going to get Kayn to safety, and Wukong might be regretting using that flash so early on there.
Yes, as I was saying, the Nasus' Wither is kind of negated by the Phase Rush rune of the Vladimir. Being able to get so much slow resist as well as movement speed just makes it pretty negligible, and Vladimir is able to just speed on out of there.
The electrocute from Zed actually doing so much damage. I guess it's the poke that they need when the Ashe isn't able to get out sufficient poke. But with Taric, Vilfire can feel a lot more safe. Obviously, all that tankiness, plus all the healing and shielding, really does help to keep him healthy.
And I believe if the Taric's reaction speeds are good enough, he can actually negate the proc of Zed's ultimate with the damage nullification of Taric's ultimate. So you'll have to look out for that interaction later.
So much damage though onto Vilfire. Vilfire might be forced back very soon. Of course, again, both teams using control wards on this Inferno. It's an Infernal, but both teams have actually started taking it yet.
This is a really bad position for Vilfire.
Yeah, Vilfire uses ultimate, although first blood, Taric getting the kill there onto Zed, perhaps, who bit off a bit more than he can chew. He really wanted that kill onto Vilfire, but of course a great ultimate from Vilfire stopped that from actually happening.
I think at that point, if you're playing Zed there, you really just need to cut your losses and ultimate the Taric to try and stop getting hit by the stun. Because you've still got potential to kill with your shurikens, and then you also don't die and give first blood over to the bot lane. But perhaps these are lessons that he can learn.
He was He was really desperate for that kill onto Vilfire.
Yeah.
And he was actually willing to give up that first spot for it. And so for the first time in this series, we see kill advantage actually the DUCKO rather than Terabyte.
We'll have to see how well they can extend it. Because I definitely give...
Again, we see this torn into Q for Zerath. But this time, Zerath's a bit more healthy after the fact. Kane getting some damage onto Wukong, but now with Galio having ulted in and said perhaps it's Kane that's in a really bad position. He's running, trying to get out, but the taunt ultimately gets him. And of course, even if he wasn't taunted, that enchanted crystal arrow from Ashe was coming along as well to ensure that they get the kill and that return kill onto Kane. Now, the ultimate from Vladimir also used onto Nasus. I don't think he's actually going to get the kill. Of course, he does get the flash out on Nasus, so you could perhaps say that's actually worth the trade.
And the Vladimir...
taking so much damage.
The Vladimir does have a significant CS advantage. And even though it is 0-0-0-0, in terms of a gold lead, Vladimir's basically a killer. But whether that will mean much when Nasus starts stacking up is another question. As Nasus is actually doing much better on the stack front than he was last game.
Surprising, isn't it? We've got to almost 15 minutes and neither team has started the Drake yet. Both teams keep coming in, putting a ward in the Drake and then not taking it. If it was a Cloud, perhaps I'd understand, but this is an Inferno. I would have expected to see a skirmish by now, like we've seen in so many of the past encounters in these past games, of trying to get these Drakes. There's been such a focus on them in the two previous games.
And I think that's because of the bot lane, and because the there's not really much that either lane can do to win. They're saying that Taric lands a stun onto the Ashe, but once again it bears no fruit. But yeah, without a significant...
It feels like a much slower game we've seen. I'm expecting to see some kind of explosion of action very soon. And suddenly, you know, one team getting carried away with the kills like we see.
So you've really, if this keeps going on like it is currently going, you've really got to hand it over to DUCKO with the Nasus and also the Xayah being able to pump out so much damage late game. And even the Kayn, depending on which form he goes, if he goes the red form of Kayn, then they're gonna have a lot on their plate.
I mean, yeah, unfortunately for TBD with this team comp, they really lack any kind of consistent damage. Of course, they have the Zed and they have the Wukong, who are very much kind of bursty types. The Ashe doesn't deal that much damage when compared to Xayah. And already we see DUCKO taking this first Drake as an Infernal Drake, so of course it's going to be an evergreen, useful Drake for them throughout the game.
And we do see the red Kayn form, so that's going to be very annoying for the side of TBD.
Forced to use an ult there,
but Kayn coming in at the back.
Before Zed uses ult, and Taric did exactly what you were describing. Taric using the ultimate there to stop Vilfire from dying to the Zed ult. And now we see another trade just afterwards in the top lane. Wukong also appeared in the top lane. It looks like Taric's going to be
Galio in the bot lane.
and he's going to be taken down by Galio and Ashe.
Wow, there's a lot going on both sides of the map there. TBD taking a victory in the bot lane and also managing to secure that turret in the top lane. Both maybe this will be the point where TBD turns it around and starts to increase the small lead they have. Because of course, although DUCKO does have one kill, that kill's on Torek, who isn't particularly... it's not like he needs golds to do his job, compared to something like Isaiah or Xerath or Kayn.
See actually DUCKO pinging that Herald. Looks like after they've got that Infernal Drake, they're then looking towards this Herald as their next objective in the game.
So far, seeing what you're seeing, Aragon, what are your thoughts on this Zed support?
I see it has its uses, but I still hold that I think would have been a lot more useful in the mid lane. They would have been able to get some kills onto Galio, I'm sure. You know, Renali is a Z main, so I'm sure he would have been able to actually get some kills around.
You see the Vladimir.
A fight going on in the top lane between the Vladimir and Nasus. Of course, both sides having such sustain. The Kayn and the Galio coming to help. Kayn might just be taken down there. He kind of came in just to die. Galio trying to do something, but he can't. Nasus is surviving in this fight, and now Galio is trying to get away. He's stunned up by Xerath. He might be taken down. The taunt comes out, but it's not going to save him. He ends up getting taken down by Xerath, and Xerath now 1-0.
And also has that blue buff on him, so he'll be able to...
The Dazzle stuns up Ashe in the bot lane, and Ashe is very quickly taken down by Vilfire's Xayah.
You've got to wonder why the 0-0 Ashe has a 200 gold shutdown, but Vilfire's going to be very happy to pick that up and get 500 gold in his pocket from just one kill. So we now start to see the gold lead that the side of TBD had. It's shrinking and shrinking as time goes on. You now see Kayn moving into the mid lane, although he misses the knock-up onto the Galio, so no kill there.
And it doesn't look like Wukong was willing to risk anything by joining the fight. And neither side gain nor lose anything really.
We see the Cloud Drake coming up soon. And although the Kayn is quite far away, I doubt the side of TBD will be able to sneak it before the Kayn's able to get in range to smite.
Yeah, certainly the rest of the members of DUCKO are very much positioned around this Drake, ready for if TBD are looking to engage upon it. And now that Kayn's arrived, I can't imagine TBD are able to do anything.
We even see the Nasus taking a brief pause from farming.
Engaged upon by Zed, but does not die. The taunt coming out from Galio will catch up to the Cyclone, just about saving Wukong there. Wukong with such low health. The Alpha is the first to go down, and the Batman on such low health will also now die. Kayn and Vilfire are engaged upon the Vladimir, and the Vladimir will also die, and suddenly 3 members of TBD have been killed. 2 members though. Back end. Another kill for Xerath to make that a double kill in the fight. 3 in total for Nitro Dude, and he's doing well on this Xerath.
We see the Omayo Mushinderu coming from the Vladimir, killing Vilfire after he's already dead. But I have to say that's just a beneficial fight to the side of DUCKO.
I mean, it was certainly surprising actually that TBD were able to get 2 kills off that, literally just off the back end of that fight. But of course then, the Ashe being caught out right at the end was not good news, and then Sunblock was definitely, of course, a great advantage and a great team fight win, you would say, for DUCKO's side.
And now we do see the Zonya's Hourglass on the side of Vladimir, so he's going to be very hard to remove in these fights. And the Zed, and that is a dead Zerath if I've seen one. The ultimate from Zed and also Galio's taunt really just destroying the Zerath before he could do anything.
The mid lane turret then going down for TBD. Again, this game is very much up in the air. The kill advantage and Drake advantage, of course, for DUCKO, but then a gold advantage still and a turret advantage for TBD. So it's very much up in the air of which side is actually going to take the win, and it's certainly not going to be decided right away. Flash comes out from Vladimir very quickly there just to save him from a potential engage from the Kane Aces on the top side of the map. But Vladimir is going to remain on that side, he's going to keep pushing.
Three members of DUCKO looking to perhaps try and take this mid lane turret. And that wave clear from Galio and Zed just shutting it down before it can happen. One thing interesting we did actually see was that the Zed was able to complete his support item quite a while before the Taric was. Just not something you'd really expect out of an unconventional pick such as the Zed support.
Now Wukong caught up, I can imagine this is going to be a death onto him. Yet Wukong already dead. The Zed though engaging onto Vilfire. Vilfire ulted by Taric just in time to save him from the Zed ult. And look at this, Nasus just walks through 3 members of TBD. Quite happy to continue going. The Zerath ult will pick off 2. A quick double kill, and Galio running from this fight. 5 members of DUCKO running through the mid lane. They're going to probably take this mid lane tower, and they might be able to continue pushing or even look towards the Baron.
I would really want to look towards the Baron in this case, because you're not really going to get much done with that Galio just sitting under the turret. Although
Galio stunned up and very quickly taken down. The Nasus does so much damage and is so tanky. Of course, they don't have the wave. They can just look towards Baron and Kane. Trying to stop the Vladimir though. The Vladimir on quite a spree in this top lane push, and so they might have to actually stop that instead of being able to potentially do an objective.
Galio is the Vladimir is incredibly farmed up with his 50 or 60 CS lead over the Nasus. But will this really matter with Nasus' stats? It remains to be seen.
The Ocean Drake actually was pinged by both sides at the same time, and so we can expect that when it spawns, both sides are going to be looking towards that. The Zed stunned up by Zerath. Zerath did so much damage at this point. He's 5-1. The ultimate comes out, and he does get the kill with that final hit of the ultimate onto Zed. And that's not great really, because now we're looking at a 5v4 for TBD. And really we can start seeing advantages for DUCKO in this game, especially now with this Ocean Drake is going to be taken. That's going to be the 3rd Drake of the game if they're able to secure this for DUCKO. And DUCKO can perhaps actually be looking at not just winning the game, but winning this whole series.
And you really wouldn't expect that from the outcome of the first game.
And certainly even if you'd ask me halfway through the second game where it looked like TBD was so close to winning there, they'd had such an advantage.
We do see
DUCKO have really brought this back.
We do see the executioners coming out from Ash, obviously targeting down the red form Kayn. And I suppose the Nasus in some regard as well.
And the Nasus, yeah. Especially if the Nasus is picking up that Spirit Visage.
But we really need to see some pushes coming out from the side of DUCKO or a Baron, because you can't let this game go too late, otherwise the Vladimir will just run over your entire backline.
Moment of silence really for both teams as they both kind of prepare around this middle of the map to look for a potential next team fight. Looks like no one's really split pushing at the moment. They're both kind of just setting up in these groups, perhaps to win a team fight and then to get onto the Baron, or indeed just to push down the mid lane. Tier 1 and mid turrets have been taken down, and so we could be looking towards a push for either side.
I really think they need to start a Baron or something soon, because otherwise the side of TBD really has no reason to engage onto the onto DUCKO, and DUCKO will find it quite hard to find. Of course, it's quite easy to find a pick with the Zerathi or maybe a flash turret stun, but then to engage a full team fight is pretty difficult. And speaking of which, we actually see Vladimir getting poked down really
already hard. Taking such damage, yeah. And pretty much for free, you know, nothing really used by DUCKO's side.
Although, of course, the Vladimir did retain his pool, so he obviously wasn't feeling too bad about it.
But we do see a slight variation now with the Nasus starting to split in the bottom lane, perhaps actually needing something to be done. I imagine perhaps both teams are looking for this next Drake because neither side's doing anything. The Protobelt used by Vladimir to get up to the Xerath, who's taken such damage from Vladimir, the barrier used to save him, and Xerath does get out with the help of that barrier. So much damage actually from the Vladimir there. Quite unexpected actually. But I do expect, you know, Xerath just gets to recall there, get back to lane, and nothing's really lost or gained for either side. Barrier has such a low cooldown, it may indeed be back up by the time that the next fight breaks out. Ocean Drake is pinged by Kane. It certainly does look like both teams are just waiting for this Drake to spawn and then to have a fight over it.
Yeah, that definitely seems to be the general game plan of both teams. It just seems to be fight, get the Drake, fight, get the Drake, fight, get the Drake.
I mean, they could have done this about the Baron.
They just...
The team wants to risk giving the other team the Baron, but they're quite okay with letting the other team have the Baron. But the Ocean Soul does end up coming through for DUCKO, and that's not a single Drake for TBD, which is now going to be quite a problem in these fights.
And the question you've got to ask yourself is, will this Kayn or this Native ever die? When they're getting so much healing from the Ocean Soul. And so much healing from just the regular Kayn, or the Spirit Visage, and the Native passive. Because I really...
Well, it looks as if Galio might be looking towards a Thornmail soon. And certainly, of course, Ash already has that Executioners.
And actually, he upgrades it to the Mortal
Reminder.
Reminder.
Are really going to have to help.
You've really got to ask yourself though, why are none of these teams going around the Baron? They just really seem scared of this Baron and don't want to try and fight around it.
I mean, there's so many wards in that area. They're never going up to fight anymore. Also, of course, Vladimir with the Oblivion Orb is probably going towards that Morellonomicon, which will also provide some Grievous Wounds. But Wukong now just caught up. Why would he be there? You know, that's just... You don't do that at this stage in the game.
And they are heading towards the
Baron on the line. And now they know, with no jungler on TBD's side, this Baron can go pretty much uncontested. I mean, that's such a misplay from Wukong to be standing there on his own pretty much. You know, the smite's available for Kayn. I'd be very surprised if they somehow lost this Baron. Yeah, they get the Baron. I mean, I even saw the Baron go down to 300 health. They could have smited it probably, or he should have smited it probably a lot earlier than that. But yeah, it does. Eventually, of course, they secure the Baron, and at this point, I don't think that TBD are really going to be able to match the push that this Baron is providing for DUCKO, and we may indeed see a great push onto at least one of these inhibitors on TBD's side, if not further.
The most important part in these games is keeping the Xerath and the Xayah safe. If they're able to just keep these two carries undamaged and protected in a backline, then I don't see how TBD can bring it back.
I mean, that's the problem for TBD. They don't have their own Xerath or Xayah. I mean, you look at their team comp and they just don't have anyone who could even act as one of these carries. Even if Wukong was really fed, he wouldn't, you know, he'd be able to perhaps burst off one or two members, but he wouldn't be able to do the kind of sustained damage that Vilfire or Nitro Dude indeed are able to do on their respective champions. The only person perhaps that would be Vladimir.
And of course,
still, it's so situational for Vladimir whether he's able to get, you know, a massive ult on. Be able to catch up so many members. Torn doesn't catch anyone, but Galio actually taking quite a bit of damage. And Ashe kind of just feels useless in these fights. Ashe, you see that damage from Xerath actually onto Ashe there, taken down to such low health and they're not even really in a fight. I mean, I think that Xerath Q might have even been intended for the minion wave. Meanwhile, even when the Zed combos onto Vilfire, you can see he was taken down to only 90% health and then healed back up to full by Tarwick and indeed the Ocean Drake. I'm really not sure how TBD will be able to match whatever is thrown at them by DUCKO. Well, Baron has worn off, and they didn't actually even get to push to an inhibitor. So I guess you could say it's actually a great success for TBD there that nothing was able to happen from that Baron. The advantage of Zerath doesn't find Zerath, but Zerath is forced to use Flash. So I would say that's probably worth for TBD there. They use an arrow and they get Zerath's Flash. That Flash is actually really useful because there's no other mobility for Zerath to get out of anything. Now, Elder Drake started by DUCKO's side. I'm not sure whether Wukong's able to get in this pit. He does jump in, but he instantly jumps back out. Elder Drake now down to 4,000 HP, 3,000 counting down. Zed and Wukong just prepared up on the other side, but Kayn does secure the Drake. And the rest of the members of TBD running away. Ashe is already dead. And Vladimir now dies to Vilfire's Zaya. TBD really is scrambling for their lives. And with this Elder Drake, it's going to be hard for TBD to fend off any fights and any damage that's thrown at them by DUCKO. Now the inhibitor tower focused by the Dukes. They now are looking onto the inhibitor. They take their first inhibitor of the game. And now they're looking on the first Nexus tower. There's nothing that Galio or Wukong can do. The Taric ultimate comes down and all the members of TBD are dying. Only Zed and Ashe are left. The Nexus is being focused, and that is going to be the base being destroyed and the series win.
A 2-0 comeback for the side of DUCKO. Wow. Absolutely.
Really a reverse sweep there, and something we just didn't expect from the result of game one, but DUCKO really brought that back.
And I've got to say, they should have banned Nasus. Nasus is just such a strong catalyst for which the team can unite around. Nasus does so much damage to champions, he does so much to the towers in pushing, and he can also absorb so much damage, especially with his Sterax and his Spirit Visage.
I mean, I think there was such problems in the draft of TBD. They gave themselves no kind of team fight damage at all. They gave themselves no opportunity to do damage, and you know, not to mention the fact that the funny roles and the funny lanes that the different champions were in, it's certainly unorthodox, and it didn't really pay off perhaps how they wanted it to.
And yeah, I doubted the Zed support, and I think my doubt was well placed. 0-4-2, he really didn't have much of an impact. I think the Alistar would have been a much better pick in that case.
Oh, absolutely. The Alistar was so influential in every team fight in the 2 games before. And the Z just, every single time the Z would try to have an influence, say he would try to ult Zarath or Zaya, the Taric would just ult. Simple as that, really. And then the Z would basically have no impact. And indeed, he might be stunned by Taric, by Zarath.
So really, I think the mid laner for the side of the TBD, he did so well in game 1, but then he just wasn't really able to pull much off after that. That was all his. He used everything he could use, and then that wasn't enough.
I mean, it's an unfortunate loss, very disappointing, I'm sure, for the members of TBD. But then for DUCKO, you must imagine their elation and how happy they are after their disappointing performance in the first game. And indeed in the second game, I'm sure they are aware of the problems they had in the second game, but they were able to bring it back off really just one team fight in the second game. And then in the third game, suddenly they really felt like they knew what they were doing, and they were really able to, you know, brush up and get that victory, which felt well deserved at the end. And you know, you can certainly see their efforts in this series of getting this win, and it's certainly very commendable.
Indeed. And if we're going to talk about the MVP, I think I'd have to give it to Nitro Dude. He had a bit of a shaky game 1 versus the Yasuo, but then after that he's just consistent. Although, of course,
Nitro Dude did do so well. I mean, there's so many good players. You know, Vilfire, as soon as, you know, the first game on Kalista perhaps wasn't the best performance, but then he picks up his signature Zaya pick, and suddenly he does so well. And indeed, also the Ninjago's Nasus was consistently consistent.
So yeah,
he always seemed to be able to survive in these fights.
And I think that brings to a close game 3 of the in-house best of 3 tournament.
5v5 open, yeah, for League of Legends AGSB. And so we'll once again congratulate the winners, Team DUCKO, or actually their name is Dukes of Kamor, but we're not going to say that every time.
No, they're Ducks of Kamor. You've been saying Dukes this whole time. But anyway, on that note, we will have to go.
So thanks for watching.
And goodbye.
We will see you again.